There's Gina. I seem to have more Hollywood squares on my screen today.
Than our normal?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Look, there's Marianne Stacy. Hey, see? All right, I'm seeing who's paying attention out there. All right, oh, it's going to be a tough crew. Oh, I'm not on mute. Oh, okay. Anyway.
I'm not part of that tough crowd.
Okay, thank you. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? First off, I'm delighted that everybody is able to Zoom in this afternoon. And I certainly hope that you're all doing well, you and your family and your friends, given what's going on in the greater world. And everybody is continuing to practice good pandemic etiquette. As we move forward with our virtual and our hybrid education this fall, let me offer a few comments. The first is, when we think about it, we've been in this mode for about 6 months now. And as we're talking to students, their families, and people about town, one thing becomes clear. When we did this pivot, people associated the move to online and remote education as being an outcome of COVID-19, the pandemic. And it's sort of that stigma, if you will, has continued along to a certain degree with that association. And as we're looking ahead and we're thinking, where's this all going to take us and how are we going to manage this into the future, especially if the pandemic goes on for longer than we had originally hoped. It becomes necessary to start thinking in terms of, we're really providing education now in the virtual world, the virtual education, where the teaching and learning is now in an environment that can be literally equally as stimulating as what was happening in the physical classroom. Perhaps everything minus the physical classroom smell and touch. Interestingly, if you had a chance to look at the Strata Education survey this week, and they do it's a weekly, I believe it's a weekly survey of work and education tied into COVID-19, there's actually been a change, a shifting pattern in the acceptance towards online and hybrid education that seems to be playing well to where we are headed at this particular moment. So we've done very well in terms of the ongoing training, the TLC that's continued to operate over the summer, for which I'm very grateful for everyone and their role that they've played in continuing to refine the teaching and learning skills as we ramp up for the fall. And even in terms of how we provide student support services in the virtual setting has really ramped up tremendously over the past few months. So in many ways, when we look at COVID-19, it's really accelerated what many may believe is a necessary modification in our teaching and learning that would have taken perhaps another generation to get to where we will be by September 8th. So as the governor has eased some of the opening parameters, and as we ramp up for the hybrid courses in our virtual state for the fall, we do understand that there will now be students on campus in some of those face-to-face settings for some of those hybrid courses. And just as an aside, we have had students on campus as they've completed some of their lab and their specialized training courses connected to EKG, dental hygiene, the EMT program, and aviation. And we got through that very successfully. There were no health issues. People played by the rules, and it worked out really well. So as we look at where we are now with the fall, and I have received a number of inquiries really around the return to work, if you will, for our full-time faculty and staff. And the notion there is, as we see more students coming back, the expectation is that there will be more of the employees coming back to campus as well. As we look at where we are for the fall, there will be the periodic need to bring back full-time people that may not have been back for a while. Now, are we looking at returning people to come back to campus full-time? No, certainly not. We're not ready for that. I don't think the world is ready for that at this moment. But we are looking at the notion of, within certain functionalities across the campus, there's the need to ensure that the teams can come together at a certain point. This could be as much as potentially one day a week that everyone is on campus, so that there's that dialogue and that renewed sense of energy, if you will, with everyone in the same setting, sharing ideas physically. But the notion that we're dealing with now is that the expectation is not that people are going to be coming back to campus full-time anytime in the foreseeable future. We are still looking at our full-time faculty and staff continuing to work in the remote, and for those people that are coming in to work within the office environment and the classroom environment as well. But again, as this continues to play out, the pandemic continues to play out, the expectation is that people will periodically be called to come back to campus to perform certain of the job functionalities, and that's really the nature of what we do at the college. So that'll certainly be a piece of some of the changes to come. As we look more specifically at some of the more current changes that have been put in place, actually as of today, there is a temperature check that is now provided along the ring road for every vehicle or walker coming through. It's a quick, less than 10 seconds temperature check, does not actually touch the person. It's provided by our previous EMT students who are performing that function. And there's also a reminder of the self-attestation questions that were actually included in an email that I sent out last week. And I'm going to see if I can pull them up real quick here. Okay, with luck, you're seeing our Dr. Chatbot, which is basically it runs you through the scenario of questions, and these are advisory questions that have come in through the statewide higher education consortium of institutions that have been working on addressing the pandemic need. It runs you through a series of questions, generic questions. The intent here is to get people in the mindset to just self-evaluate every day when you get up, before you go off to work or wherever you're going. Make that mental check of how you're doing, answer the questions, and then literally at the end, if everything is fine, let's see, have you experienced any of the following? So if you have no symptoms, you click no, double check, you responded, there's no symptoms. Boom. So it's just sort of this mechanism that actually will be sitting on the campus web, is just a series of reminders of those questions that were included in the email, as sort of a mechanism to remind you of what to think about. Now, when you pull up outside in the ring road, We have the posters that remind you again of these questions, and we're not reviewing the questions and the answers with anyone in the car. The stop is just around the temperature check. But again, keep in mind these questions, because our overarching intent here is to keep the campus as safe and healthy as possible. And we believe if people follow the guidance that we've received, if you're doing this work at home, if you're making a determination that, hey, something might be going on, maybe I should stay home today and check this out, you know, this is where we want to be. This is what we want to get to. So that's in play, and I'm so far the testing is going really well, and it doesn't take a lot of time, so we're appreciative of that. I would also mention that Joe and the facilities folks have been very proactive in going through the various areas with the deans and the faculty to review the setup for the hybrid classes that'll be in play in the fall, so that everybody has an understanding of what the spatial requirements will be and what we need to do physically in terms of any barriers, as well as the cleaning that would occur between the classes. So we're doing the homework on the front end to make sure when we get to day one, we're ready to go, hopefully without too many other challenges or changes by September 8th. Boom, boom. I believe, let's see, commencement is September 1st, and you may feel like we're sort of squishy on the details for the commencement and convocation, and to a certain extent, it's been a work in progress. We are doing it outdoors. We're doing it in lot 12, and we will bring in an outside firm to provide the audio visual and the technology that will be required for the live streaming. Since we have the equipment there for the day, we are looking at our best effort to combine it with the convocation and trying to dovetail the timeline pretty tight so that people don't have to leave and come back and later in the day. So, bear with us. We are looking at a morning start for commencement, and it sounds like 10 o'clock, and we should have a decision hopefully by the end of the week on the final time. I don't see anybody jumping in to volunteer with a final time there in Hollywood Square number 1 and 2 on my screen. So look for the details to follow on that aspect, and assuming the weather holds. Wow, that was pretty rough. Okay, on that note, let's open it up to questions. I think Laurie has a question, but she's on mute. Or she's talking to herself, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm probably talking to myself. I really don't have a question, sorry.
If any of the faculty members are interested in working with enrollment management specifically working around some of the non-returner students and reaching out, that we're working on a process to do that, to be a little more engaging as opposed to a little more aggressive, but just to remind them and drive them to making a decision before the start of class, that we would welcome the opportunity to work with you in that function as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the health screening doesn't take into account the questions pertaining to somebody's travel. As you know, the governor just put in a new travel restriction. All our students away for the summer. So there doesn't seem to be a mechanism to ask somebody, have you been out of state in the last 2 weeks? And if so, where have you been? Because if they've been outside of New England, they're supposed to quarantine.
We can certainly add the question to the list, and we discussed that a little earlier today, before this rolls out, and also assuming the restriction will stay in place into the beginning of the semester. But we can certainly add that to the screening piece.
And perhaps one more, because I know when I've gone to the doctors, I mean, the questions that you mentioned deal with somebody's health symptoms. The other thing that we get asked is, have you been around anyone in the last 2 weeks that has tested positive? So it deals more with the student or person's activity, less than
Yeah.
a symptom.
I've actually lost the questions. I don't have them in front of me at the moment, but I think there is one that addresses those. And I can't pull it up. Rick, I don't know if you can pull up the Dr. Chat bot and see.
I'm working on it. Give me a couple of
Okay.
seconds.
Okay,
I actually have a couple questions.
sure.
So when employees approach this temperature, or anybody, students, faculty, staff, visitors, approach the temperature check station, what, if any, information is being recorded, such as name, what their temperature was, or anything of that nature? Is any of that being recorded? And if so,
There's no collection of data. If somebody has a temperature, we do have a fact card that we give them, and it basically recommends who if they can't reach out to their own provider, there's that the Cape Cod Healthcare hotline number available, but we're not recording data on that. We're strongly encouraging both employees and students, employees to notify your supervisor or your dean if you're not able to go in, and students notify your faculty as quickly as possible so that they there's a health issue. Rick, any luck? I might have it in an email. Anyway, so I can, questions? You said you had a few questions, Marianne.
well, I'm playing devil's advocate. What if somebody refuses to take a test? The temperature check.
Or do I have to play the role of devil if you're the devil's advocate? No, I'm never quite sure how that pans out. Well, presumably if they refuse to take the test, there's, there may be some religious or some technical. What we would do at this point, we would encourage them to pull off to the side. We can get some more individual information and tell them who to contact. For example, if it's a religious waiver, who they would follow up with for that so that we can document. And then I think, Arlene, you might want to chime in that if there is the need to find an alternative to, if they're going to, we may need to move them from a hybrid to a remote class. So we would look at that option if they're not able to do some of the testing or validate some of the health information.
Correct. If it is a student, they'll be able to either go into a remote class, which is done completely online and not hybrid, or one of the online classes.
So President Cox, Eric Sheffer said that the question was removed, but it certainly can be added back in.
Okay, see, I didn't fully lose. Okay, good. All right. So we can so we'll put that one back in along with the travel restriction, Allison.
Thank you.
Just as a way to organize hand raising, if you note in the bottom of your screen, there's a participants box. If you click on that, you'll see an icon that says raise hand. And so this way the president can see the queue of people that have questions. That might be the best process to follow.
Yeah, now that he's moved his screen here. Brian, you have a question?
Yeah, this is another question regarding the checkpoint. And I guess if somebody is asked to exit campus because they do have a symptom that does not meet the minimums, what assurances do we have that they will actually leave campus and not just ignore their orders, go park, and return to the activity they're on campus for?
There is a radio connection that the workers have to campus security, just to note the vehicle identification. All right, Shelley.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say that we do have a standard religious exemption form and the organization's office if we need.
And I think that's the intent, that we would use the same type of documentation.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Kathy Bent.
Yeah. So this is on an entirely different path, but some of the administrative support for the academic departments were furloughed. And I've got a number of questions from faculty in our department as to whether or not those people will be back to assist with getting course materials ready.
Okay, so I'm looking at Arlene and so I'm not aware that anyone has actually been furloughed, and Paul, you might be able to clarify that, but
I guess I use the term furlough, but some I know our administrative assistant didn't have a new contract. Contract is year by year, and so I didn't know.
I do know that we have delayed in renewing contracts as we watch what's happening to the enrollment. So the plan will be, we'll likely readjust some of the positions and make sure if we don't have somebody in that particular spot that's already there, there would be someone to cover it until we make the decision on whether we're bringing people back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Carol. Oh, Carol, I can't read lips.
Carol, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Am I understanding correctly that when someone presents at the checkpoint with a higher temperature than normal, we're not turning them away, we're just giving them a card?
No, they're not permitted to enter campus.
Okay.
The card gives them more details on what they should do.
Okay, great. Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought I saw Marion Santos, but
You
no,
did.
there you are.
You don't
Okay.
see me, but you can hear me.
Okay.
John, so just one point of clarification.
Okay.
So if it's 100.4 and the EMTs take it, they find it's 100.4, then the student is asked to leave campus and they're given a card. Is the temperature 100.4 or above? That's what I wanted to ask.
I believe the language.
It says that on your handout, 100.4. So I didn't know
Yes,
if that
it
was.
is.
Above
It is.
100.4.
And we'll do two tests.
Yeah, if it's a positive.
Thank you.
Yes. Paul, your hands up.
Yeah, sorry, I've got this buzzing noise in the background. But there are two things. One, Terms like furloughs and layoffs, trigger all kinds of compensation and benefits issues that really are not consistent with what we're doing here in the college. And so there are some other institutions in the Commonwealth that are doing that. The college is not. And so we certainly, as the president stated, have indicated an interest in delaying the appointments of employees until we have more information about funding and enrollment. But there is no one in this institution that has been furloughed or laid off. And the second issue is as the president stated, the standard at the screening is a temperature in excess of 100.4. Anyone with a temperature that exceeds 100.4 would be denied campus access as a protective measure for the campus community.
So just to drive home one of those points there, and also sort of paint the picture, at this moment, we are down nearly 10,000 credit hours to what we built our budget around for the fall. And this is one reason why we've really brought enrollment management. We've brought the marketing folks. We're seeking the help from the faculty in the advising role to really get all hands on deck to move some of these students that are, they're just not executing on the decision making after going through the process or after being a student here last semester. And when we look at that 10,000 credits, it equates to a big number in the budget, which is where we have some of the hesitancy in bringing people back quickly, not knowing how this is all going to turn out by the beginning of September. So nobody wants to say anything else?
I'm trying.
Looks like Christy has a question.
Wait a minute.
I'm willing to help out with the enrollment management. I've done that work with Dean McCary in the past. Is
Right.
it going to be calling students?
I think there are a few aspects that we can look at. Calling would definitely be one of them. There might be
Okay.
some texting opportunities there and emails.
Okay.
So we're trying to hit on multiple fronts, and just to reiterate, all hands on deck. And the hope is, I understand there are a lot of unknowns out there right now. Everything from people had this image of where they were going to end up going to school, and that school isn't exactly what it was a year ago. We have the issue, what's happening with our K-12 institutions around the Cape, and how does that impact a student if you're, suddenly you're trying to take 3 classes and you find all the children are home 2 or 3 days a week. So that we have a good handle on understanding what's happening. It's just that we need to go back and we need to remind people and really help educate that it's critical that you continue to move ahead, because at some point we will get through this to the end of the story of the pandemic, but we want people to be in a position that they can actually achieve their life goals and complete their certificates and their degrees. So it's closing that gap, and we know people are interested because they've taken the time to apply. They've been accepted, and in some cases we've had some back and forth conversation. It's just that it's how do you navigate some of the uncertainties that people are facing right now, and how can we help them, guiding them to an answer that hopefully results in them enrolling.
I agree, and I've had several students that their colleges they were transferring to are online, so they're choosing to stay with us.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
That's a positive in our direction.
Yes, thank you.
Carol Ladard has a question.
I already asked my question. I forgot to take my hand down. Sorry.
Is it getting a little tired by now?
Or we have Kelly Thompson also has a question.
I already asked my question.
Oh.
I guess I should be taking hands down. Yeah, so.
I'll ask one.
Do you have your hand up? I don't see your hand there.
No,
Go ahead.
right here. So this, again, devil's advocate, and it was also recently just asked of me in regards to the temperature checks. We spoke of if it was a student. Now, what happens if it is an employee that does not want to take the test and or is symptomatic and is asked to go home or told to go home? Would they be using their time?
We actually, I know we have a quick answer, and I'll let Paul handle it because he'll get it correct, and I'll leave out some of those words.
Okay, the process we're following now is, it assumes that generally speaking, if you have a temperature over 100.4, you're already feeling poorly, you shouldn't be coming to work anyway. But should you come to work, and at that point you have a temperature that exceeds 100.4 as an employee, and you're sent home, that day, because you reported to work, is something that you are not accountable for. You're paid, it doesn't come out of accrued unused time and so forth and so on, because that day you actually came to work. And you were notified on that day that your temperature exceeded the CDC guidelines. To carry this further, hypothetically, if the following day you return back to campus and your temperature was over 100.4, again, that begs the question of whether you really are sick, having been notified in the past that you had a high temperature. But the short answer is, if you come to work and your temperature exceeds the CDC standard of 100.4, that day that you're asked to go home, that is a day that the college will cover. It does not come out of your accrued unused sick time.
Thank you. And if they refuse the test?
You know, I'd like to believe that people are, understand the spirit of this. And the spirit of this is A, information sharing, and B, protecting the campus community. I would certainly suggest that anyone who wants to refuse a temperature check, given the climate that we're all living in, contact my office for further discussion. It just seems, candidly unimaginable to me, given the landscape that we're all walking and living and breathing on, why somebody might refuse a temperature check when it's in the interests of both individuals and the campus community.
Thanks, Paul. I just wanted to be sure I knew where to direct them in the event this happens.
Thanks, Marianne. Kendra.
My question is about when we open for classes, especially when we have the hybrid classes, accessibility, like how many doors to buildings do we expect to have? Are we going to be fully open where people can access the building from every door? How many should we expect to see? Are we going to prevent people, if they don't have a hybrid class, to come on campus, things like that? Because we're in a building where we will have hybrid classes, and just to have an idea of how many we could anticipate being in the building.
So we've got, I see Arlene's looking up.
And Joe's also in the room, so and Chris is in the room, and that's something, Kendra, that all of us have been working on. So and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the conversations we have had, and Chris as well, is that we will be limiting the access to the building. So certain doors will be open. We're asking, we have to remember that the hybrid courses, it's not going to be a full campus like we usually have. So faculty can stand by the door, let their students in. in, there will be one specific door that's open or two specific, depending on where the rooms are. And then, but the other doors will be locked. So access to the building will be limited. I have shared and am sharing as enrollment goes up with Joe and Chris, the number of students in those hybrid courses so that we get a sense of how many students might be coming in. And just know also that if a course has 22 students in a hybrid section, not all 22 are coming in at the same time. It would simply be a smaller number of that for students to do that exercise. But great question, Kendra. It is going to be very prescribed. Students are going to be told which parking lot to go to, which door to use, and will be given very specific instructions before they actually come onto campus. In addition to the self-attestation that President Cox has mentioned, and the checkpoint that, the symptoms checkpoint that we have.
Should we be expecting to, if we know that they're not a student in the class that's happening, for those of us who are in the building, do we need to call if there's people coming in that don't have any need to be in the building, prevention of people wandering around?
That's a great question again. Yeah, I think absolutely. If you're expecting guests, then please share with facilities and with college police that you have guests coming, so that we can expect those individuals. But I think, if there are questions, we're doing everything so that people simply aren't wandering onto campus and making use of our facilities. So it's precaution. We need to be careful.
Okay, thank you.
Joe and Chris, I don't know if I left anything out there. Please jump in.
I think you covered it really well, Arlene.
Yep, absolutely.
Mara. Dr. Weir.
Hi, everyone. I kind of have two questions. I may have missed something. One is, if you have 100.4, you go home and then you answer these questions. No. Do you just stay home until you don't have a temperature anymore? Like if it's not COVID related or what?
Well, the self-attestation questions are designed so that the individual should be reviewing them every day before they come to campus. They're sort of the baseline parameters on what's distinguishing questionable health issues from not. The temperature check is just one of those quick methods that we can identify if there's a symptom that may or may not be connected to COVID. And based on what we have in play right now, is if you're above that threshold, you wouldn't be able to come on campus. So you would stay home until the temperature is remedied.
Okay.
Or brought down below.
Okay. My second, it's not really a question, it might be a thought or not. I don't know who can. If the Children's College was opening, is it something that we could promote that with students that may have children that perhaps need some daycare?
My last update is they are looking to open, or I think they're still on for the end of the month.
The 29th, yeah.
They have limited capacity issues based on the spatial configuration. So I'm not sure how much capacity they have to address that. So that's one piece. And then just sort of as an aside, we are having some broad-based discussion internally and actually with Barnstable schools, where we're looking for some more immediate type solutions. If we had space available that we could carve out that was sort of off the track of where classes are going on, can we set up some temporary childcare opportunities? So that discussion is in play, and it's really, you really don't get, you don't get that many children in one classroom with the way the stipulations are stuff now. So it's a challenge. But we're you know, when I go to the chamber meetings, when I hear the correspondence from some of the other business folks from across the Cape, it's childcare is the #1 issue that keeps coming back. That's really driving so many decisions, and it's going to impact people's ability to work as we move through this. So we're working on. I see Mary Cronin's in there, so she knows this is all going on. So it's a work in progress. So stay tuned. That's where we are at the moment.
Hopefully, if they make that decision, then we might see an uptick in enrollments if they have.
I think we would. I think we
would
would.
happen like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jennifer Alai, did you have a question?
Yes. Are we expecting that students may be wanting to be on campus to access the Wi-Fi? And if so, are we going to allow that?
There's actually, the Wi-Fi access has been expanded into parking lot 11, as I'm looking for Rick somewhere out there.
Yes, parking lot 11.
Parking lot 11, so students can actually log into it from outside the building.
But they won't be allowed, like in the library, for example, us to do work. Just curious, I don't know.
Yeah, that's, I'm gonna.
We did have Dr. Cox, we had a meeting with the library just the other day, and they were going to try to make arrangements for by appointment only. The
Okay.
use of the library is what they're thinking at this point.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, that's good.
I also have one more question. I think Arlene might be dealing with this one. Do we still have enough laptops to give out if students are asking?
Yes, Maura. We ordered 128, right, Rick? Just before the end of the spring semester. So we'll go through the same process as well. And we have a limited number, but we do have some webcams that we can lend because we did notice that some students maybe didn't need a whole laptop, but just a webcam. And likewise for faculty, there will be some webcams available if you need one for your office computer, so you could Zoom from your office, or if your computer at home doesn't have one.
So if a student is asking to loan one, is there a process that they have to sign something? And one student asked me, how long do they loan it for?
So the process would be, it goes to me, send it to IT. IT does have a process for loaning that includes a signature sheet, and IT makes arrangements for pickup. We've been very careful about how we do pickup. And in general, it's for the whole semester. And then if extensions, if there are extenuating circumstances that we need to extend, we have given some extension.
So if someone had one for the summer, Arlene, can they just request to keep it for the fall if they're enrolled as well?
I would say notify me, and then Rick, do you want them to sign another form, or?
It should be updated.
You need to update the form with the right dates on it, that's all.
Okay. Did you want the laptop back just to check the status of it, Rick, or are you good with just loaning it while it's still out, extending it while it's still out?
I think that would just cause a delay if we had to touch it, because we probably would want to put it in isolation for a week before we even touched it. So it's just a delayed process that way.
Okay, so we'll make sure that the form for loaning the laptop is updated, and we have some record of a request for the extension. So Maura, if that is your students, could you please send me an email, and then we will probably send a form to update that.
Yeah, we would want we still wait for the approval from you for student requests. So if the student sends you an email and you approve it and copy us on it, that should suffice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You.
I'm on.
Yeah, it would be useful to have signage on campus to indicate which doors are open for a particular building.
Mm-hmm.
Just a suggestion.
No, I
Thank
agree.
you.
Thank you. Laurie Crowley.
Hi. So I have two things. One, what did you say the temperature was when you enter the campus?
Temperature cannot exceed 100.4.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was 104, and I'm like, what? Okay, so that's good. That's good. So,
100.4, you're probably not going to make it here anyway.
yeah, I was thinking, wow, that's really odd. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to say was, and it had to do with enrollment, because it's kind of pretty scary right now, but Tuesday night, I happened to be in a store, and I met a student. And so I think she might not be the only one, but she was, she's already applied and everything, and she got something from advising on what she had to do, and she doesn't live with her parents for, she did, you know, let me know this, but so she's living with an aunt who already has children, and she's taken in her and her two siblings. So this young woman's working like 2 jobs. But anyway, she is like, thinks it's too late to register, and I'm like, absolutely not. And so we traded cell phones, so I'm in touch with her, but she has to, like, she's at a loss of what she's doing, so I'm going step by step with her, like, you know, that she has to go on to this link, but even I don't know some of the steps right now. So I think if I could know some, or like we all could know exactly what the steps are. I told her I was in the cafeteria. I did see a layout. It looks like you can go in by appointment, but I wasn't sure how she contacts that end of it. So I think if like we could know it, then I can give her that information. She is going to, she's actually, we're in touch in about an hour. She'll be calling me, so I can get her to the next step. She hasn't done financial aid, so I sent her off that night on Monday when I met her to go get her financial aid started, that she'd probably have to put her aunt in, but that I would get her in touch with financial aid and so forth to get her on campus. But so I think she might not be the only one out there. I don't know if she's nervous or what, but she's at a loss of what to do because they just can't walk onto campus anymore. And so I think if I could have some information on all the steps, I can help her more.
Well, first I would say thank you for reaching out and for having the dialogue with her and closing that gap. We'll have a, why don't we follow up after the meeting in terms of a specific remedy, but also to work out a quick link, if you will, via the web page where people can go to guide them for this information, because it's a good reminder that, you know, with the college being closed, you just can't come in and walk around and find yourself. So maybe if we put a hot link out there on the home page, we can help pull this together.
And thanks to the previous question on the Chromebooks, because she doesn't have a computer and she says, I don't know how I'm going to do my courses. I did tell her that we will have loans on Chromebooks. I just read that. And so I told her I'd find out how to.
I don't believe we actually loan Chromebooks. I think it's the real laptop.
Their laptops or in their Chromebooks.
Windows 10 laptop.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. I told her that we probably can help her with that, and I'd find out the process and get back to her. So thanks for asking that question.
Thanks. Thank you. Kristen.
Hi.
Hi.
Going back to the K-12, I've been in touch with the assistant superintendent, whom I know very well. They are opening up their preschool program, and I do believe it is because of daycare. That'll be open full time. That's the Anacob preschool program. From what's in place now, K-3 is going back hybrid, Monday, Tuesday, home on Wednesdays, Thursday, Friday, in class. And then the upper classes, including my own children, is they're doing a cohort model where they're breaking them down into, you know, sets of 2. And I reached out to Deb I'm drawing a blank on her last name. We're gonna have a little bit of a problem with placing practicum students. They're not accepting teachers, assistants, 40-hour practicums. And I don't know if that's gonna tap in. I just saw John Zooks pop up in any internships that students have to be at the community. I think being proactive is probably the best way to go to see what our options are, for giving our students their hours that they need.
Right. And that'll be a challenge. Okay. Thank you. Kathy.
Hi, everyone. A few people asked me what happens in the case of a faculty member who shows up and then has a temp of over 100.4. And so whether or not the faculty member then goes on their phone and communicates through Moodle, or whether they have this, if they all get a free texting software like Remind.com or GroupMe, because the issue is if there's, the door's locked and the students are roaming around, or is there another communication channel should this happen?
So Kathy, we can work out the details of that together as a VP staff tomorrow at our meeting. But I think for sure we'll work out some communication, either, perhaps an office, you yourself could email or text, and we'll be able to make sure we notify the students. We have talked about making sure that certainly faculty, but I think all of us need to have someone prepared to jump in. Certainly if students are already on campus, that might not be the case, but make sure that we're prepared that someone else could jump in case, God forbid, but any one of us gets ill, that we'll be able to maintain continuity within education.
Thank you.
Ryan.
Yes, my question is about the availability of PPE for anybody that may show up to campus that may, for whatever reason, not have it. And if there is an availability of it, how would they go about getting that?
We'll actually have a person at the temperature site with available PPE.
Now, what about the availability of cleaning wipes or gloves or anything like that for staff who may be frequenting high-touch areas?
We would work with Joe on that and make sure that we have the coverage in place. And that goes along with part of that walk around to determine what the needs are. But we can certainly make sure that your area is checked and we have what we need on hand.
Thank you.
Art.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if I'm muted or unmuted. Am I? I'm unmuted. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So I wanted to kind of jump in on what Lori asked about. In advising, we've recreated our on-ground walk-in ability in a virtual space. We have a Zoom meeting that is open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. pretty much every day, and advisors are sitting in there helping students in real time. These appointments are far more effective at getting students registered for classes in the remote space than they ever will be on ground socially distanced. In the remote room, we can put them in a breakout room with an advisor. They can log into their computer and actually register for their classes in real time with guidance from an advisor. So the fastest way to get a current student registered is get them to our Zoom meeting. For new students, they're being directed to register for a placement test. As soon as they finish the placement test, they're given a link to the same kind of setup where they're in a Zoom meeting room with an advisor in real time actually registering for classes. So we need to push every student, new student and current student, to the advising virtual spaces. They're far more effective at enrollment conversion than on ground anything is going to be until there is a vaccination for this virus. So reach out to me and I'll get you links to the Zoom rooms. For new students, get them connected to admissions and they're being funneled to our front door. But we have lots of virtual and remote support and real-time synchronous support for any student, regardless of their lifespan with the institution.
Good information. Thanks, Art. Do I see Kristen?
Shelley, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, I have a question from Sky Green. She is not able to unmute her Zoom, so I'm just going to read her question. For you guys, she wants to know the hours of the temp check and if the flagpole entry only location and how that covers everyone coming to the campus between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And also if the public is allowed to walk the ring road. So that first question was the hours of the check, and then how that covers everyone coming into campus between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and then allowed to walk the ring road.
Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll take that. So the temperature check location will be open Monday through Friday from 8 to 12. So the idea is that we're going to try to hit the most traffic that we can anticipate. We can adjust the hours as classes, once we know what the classes are and the anticipated volume of people coming onto campus, we'll adjust the hours. For those that do show up to work before 8 o'clock, like I do very frequently, we are going to have individual where a faculty member, or I'm sorry, department head could have a temperature gauge right there and take the temperature. Like the maintainers come in around 6 o'clock. I know Rick's staff comes in early. So we will have the provision to take temperature checks in different individualized departments as well.
So if someone comes in after 12 noon, a department head or a maintainer will be doing the temperature checks?
If it's a scheduled work shift, then yes. If it's just someone that wants to walk the ring road after noontime, we won't have anybody out there at this point.
Okay.
I would expect to see those hours change as the semester actually begins. That we would move to coverage around when the classes are in session. All right, Sheila.
So, just going off of what Lori was saying, you know, admissions, I just want to let you guys know we've done a ton of outreach and are working very closely with Art's team. We actually do have a talk chat right on the website that students can go right into. And if they have any questions at all, they can go right into the admissions and they can literally ask us a question. We are on at 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And my team is doing that consistently. So if a student does have an issue, I know this student doesn't have a computer, but we are and have been in the office staffing the phones consistently 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. We also are on our email, so we are in the office. Every staff member is in the office once a week at this point. And so, you know, students are able to get in touch with us if they have any questions, and we can lead them in the direction of where they need to go. The talk chat is very popular, and as you can see, I turned off because I'm talking to students. So, so, you know, feel free to have those students reach out to us. You know, the talk chat is a great first step for students if they don't know where to go. But we are in the office every day, 5 days a week.
Thank you. Mara.
Just another question. Is parking lot 12 open? Because I know some people park there and walk over. So if we park there, do we walk to the flagpole?
If you park there, you should walk through the flagpole, yes.
Our plan was to block off parking lot 12 for that reason. so that people would not be parking there and getting access to the campus that way.
Parking lot 12 is closed. The challenge will be when the food pantry and children's college opens up. We have other plans to address that then, but for now, parking lot 12 is barricaded closed.
And if students cycle or take the bus to campus, or faculty for that matter, will they know to stop at?
We've been in contact with the RTA management, and they have been informed to pull in the flagpole, and that's a drop-off pickup point. Thank you.
For everyone.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds like we have it covered, folks.
I just want to add that back to the conversation about the campus building doors. I know it presents an inconvenience for faculty and such who may be conducting classes, but the securing of the exterior doors of buildings is part of the college's prevention, COVID prevention plan. You know, PPE, social distancing, hand washing stations, and so forth. We in HR continue to receive a number of communications from employees that are concerned about exposure, and everyone is concerned. And so the temperature checks, the PPE, the social distancing, the exterior building doors, locks, and so forth, these are reasonable standards that employers, in this case the college, would be expected to implement to establish as much comfort as we can when it comes to minimizing the exposure to COVID. The other point I wanted to mention is that as we ramp up, obviously the hours of the checkpoint will increase. We'll need more monitors. And so you will see on the college website that the position is posted. So if there are people that have an interest in this position, they should follow the very same procedure that we have followed for years in terms of applying for this position.
I just want to add, because I forgot to on my piece, and Sheila, she's made it past admission. She's good to go. She's got her letter from advising, and the part I forgot to say, which was part of the important part, was the link that she links on says error. And so I'm sure it's because she doesn't have a laptop. And she's 18. I think a lot of our kids at 18 are using their phones. So when she goes to that link,
Laurie, hold on one second. What happened is if the students got accepted a while ago, we have, like in October or November before the pandemic, the link had changed after the pandemic had started. So, it's very easily changed. So that student has been getting probably about a bajillion emails from us saying how to do this, but because she doesn't have a computer, but she should definitely just reach out to us by phone, and I can show her what to do, because we've made it very easy for students, and depending on her high school GPA, she may not even need to test. So we've made some concessions for students over this time, so the best bet is to just have her reach out to me personally, and I will take care of it.
yeah, and I don't think she does have to test. She has a 3.1.
Yeah, so yeah, depending on her GPA, just have her reach out to me, and I'd be happy to have her get to where she needs to be. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Karen,
Thanks,
you've been
Sheila.
waiting patiently.
I'm sorry. First of all, I want to say thank you to Joe and his team for walking through the Tilden Art Center with Kathy McCarran and myself to figure out our face-to-face classes. My question goes back to the temperature checkers and how you said the hours will be 8 to 12. Could we perhaps have 2 people, because the Tilden Art Center, while we've identified specific doors, we have classes that begin at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or 6:30 at night. And so we won't, if there's nobody there, then how can we ensure that those folks are okay?
The answer to the question was what the time is right now. When we get into the semester, the times are going to be adjusted based on the class schedule. So
Okay.
I think we'll have that covered.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Connor.
Okay.
All right, Connor, you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, good. One thing I wanted to mention is that, yes, we do have plenty of laptops to loan out. However, last week, somebody brought to my attention that somebody was asking if we provide wireless pucks, which is the portable puck devices that comes from either Verizon or AT&T that gives the internet access. And we do not have those wireless puck devices to lend out. We just have laptops. The users have to have their own internet service at home exists to be able to get on the internet.
So if I could add to that, I would recommend, again, going back to the Internet Essentials piece that Comcast has offered everybody for a very low price, depending on your how much you make.
All right.
Donna, you have a question?
I just wanted to know if it was possible to speak up because there's.
Anna, we can't hear you.
Okay, I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'll shut up.
No, we hear you.
I hear you now.
I hear you now.
Okay. No, I was just asking if people could actually speak up because I couldn't hear them. That was it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Hello, can you hear me? It's Pauline Feely.
Hi, Pauline. We hear you.
Hi. Oh, thank you. I'm on the phone because my computer froze again. But I had a couple questions. One is with regard to the commencement, I know there's still a lot of planning that's going on. I thought, and I may have misunderstood in the past, but I thought that the commencement was going to be done instead of the entire college that was graduating done in programs or groups. Is it going to be small groups, or is it going to be all those who are graduating and all the faculty all together like we would have done in the past?
Under the current provisions, as long as we do it outside and it's not under a tent, we should be able to handle it in lot 12. And that's what we're looking at, doing it as one event. It would be for students and faculty and live stream to their families and their friends.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's just to help with planning, that's all. Personal planning. Thank you. The other thing is back to the process that is instituted for the temperature checks and screenings. As many of you know, we've been doing, for diagnostic tech and CNA, we've been doing these all summer. We had over 40 students from spring that we were trying to finish this summer, over 60 labs that we've been conducting. We're still conducting them a few times a week. So I just want to let the rest of the faculty and staff know that we've been doing these temperature checks and screenings right along, and that the students have been incredibly mature and very cooperative, very understanding about the whole thing. We've not encountered one instance where anyone has had any issue or argument about it. One interesting thing we did observe is that we had two times, because we do our labs for phlebotomy in the evening, we had two instances where it was so hot outside that everyone registered over 100 in their temperature checks. This was not necessarily over 100.4, but still over 100. And so we actually had them rest for a short while in the shade, and then we rechecked them, and they were actually then more normal readings. So it was an interesting observation, just that the weather that we've been having actually, I think, just artificially contributed to these elevated temperatures. So if these are being done with reaching into the cars as people are arriving, I don't necessarily anticipate that to happen. But if people are walking and it's still an extreme heat, I think it's worth a recheck on them, just in the event that there's an artificially elevated reading when they check it the first time. It's just been an experience. We've done this now for so many students through the summer that I think it's just worth being aware of that.
So the people that get the positive reading, they would get a second test as well, right after.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If I may also, for those instances, this was raised earlier also, all of our labs this summer involved students having to work closely with one another to draw blood on each other, to do EKGs on each other, et cetera. So we then expanded the PPE that was needed to protect them in those instances. Phlebotomy, for example, is using a full face shield in addition to a face mask. So in some particular situations, again, I think it's program by program. Dental hygiene certainly needed to have the greatest protection. So I think it just depends on what the experience is in the given situation when students are in close proximity to one another.
Thanks. Thank you. Any more questions? Well, just a reminder, if you're interested in engaging with enrollment management and helping out as we work the enrollment issue, please reach out to Christine, and we'll push ahead. And we're looking forward to the ramp up to September 8th. So thank you all.